Chapter 5. Return of Leon. The wind howled through the broken city streets as Rico, Rosa, and Vega huddled in a small, crumbling building, catching their breath after their narrow escape from the bunker. The cold night air was biting, and the silence was thick with tension. Rico kept glancing over his shoulder, half expecting that monstrous creature to tear through the walls at any moment. "We need to find shelter," Rosa whispered, her eyes scanning the street for any signs of movement. "Someplace to regroup." Vega was quiet, her mind replaying the horrors they'd just escaped. That thing in the bunker, the sheer power of it, had rattled her to the core. But worse than the creature itself was the knowledge that they weren't alone. Something was watching them. She could feel it. Rico nodded. "We can't go far. We still need to figure out what that bunker was hiding." "Maybe there's more underneath," Vega said softly. "That creature. It didn't come from nowhere." Rosa's face darkened. "And if the government knew about this, if they've been hiding it, then we have more than just the infestation to worry about." They started to move, slipping quietly through the ruined streets toward an old resistance safe house, a place they hoped hadn't been overrun. But as they reached the alley, a figure stepped out from the shadows, blocking their path. Vega froze, her hand instinctively going for the shotgun at her side. But then she saw his face, the scarred, weathered features, the cold eyes that had once looked at her with betrayal. "Leon," she whispered. Rico immediately raised his rifle, aiming at Leon's chest. "What are you doing here?" Leon held up his hands, palms open. "I'm not here to fight." Rosa stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "You abandoned us, Leon. Left us for dead." Leon's jaw tightened. "I had no choice. You don't understand what's happening, what's really going on." Rico's grip tightened on his rifle. "Enlighten us, then." Before Leon could respond, a distant rumble echoed through the alley. Tires screeched, headlights flashed in the distance, followed by the unmistakable clatter of boots hitting the ground. Rico, Rosa, and Vega tensed, their weapons raised. Leon's eyes widened with urgency. "It's the government agents. They're coming for you." A bullet whizzed past Rico's head, embedding itself in the wall behind him. "Get down!" Leon shouted, diving behind a pile of debris just as the agents opened fire. The street erupted into chaos. Government soldiers, heavily armed and wearing tactical gear, stormed the alley, spraying gunfire in all directions. Rico fired back, taking cover behind a rusted car, while Rosa laid down suppressive fire with her assault rifle. Vega crouched low, aiming her shotgun at an approaching agent, but before she could pull the trigger, an explosion tore through the air. One of the agents had thrown a grenade. The blast knocked her off her feet, sending her crashing into a nearby wall. Dazed, Vega struggled to stand. Her vision blurred, and the sounds of gunfire seemed distant, muffled. She blinked, trying to focus, but an agent loomed over her, his rifle aimed directly at her head. Just as he pulled the trigger, a gunshot rang out, and the agent crumpled to the ground. Vega turned, her heart pounding, to see Leon standing over her, his pistol smoking. "Stay with me, Vega," Leon yelled, grabbing her arm and pulling her to her feet. She stared at him, her mind spinning. He had saved her. He could have let her die, but he hadn't. For the first time, she saw something different in his eyes, something that made her heart race in a way that had nothing to do with fear. Before she could say anything, more agents swarmed into the alley. Rico and Rosa were pinned down, running low on ammunition. Suddenly, from the far end of the alley, two figures emerged, young, barely out of high school. Jesse and Jackson, brothers who had been with the resistance from the start, charged into the fray. Jesse wielded a sniper rifle, picking off agents with deadly precision, while Jackson, armed with a pistol, darted through the chaos, taking down soldiers with swift, calculated shots. "We've got your back," Jackson yelled, sliding into cover beside Rico. Together, they fought off the agents in a brutal, desperate firefight. Bullets flew, bodies fell, and the air was thick with smoke and the stench of gunpowder. The brothers moved like seasoned soldiers, their teamwork flawless as they cut down the remaining agents. When the last of the soldiers fell, panting and bloodied, the group gathered in the alley, their eyes scanning the bodies for any sign of more danger. "We need to interrogate one of them," Rico said, his voice grim. "Find out what they know." Jesse and Jackson dragged a wounded agent, barely conscious, toward the group. Rico crouched beside him, gripping the man's collar. "Why were you protecting that bunker? What's down there?" The agent coughed, blood dripping from his mouth. You don't understand," he gasped. "The bunker, it's not what you think. There's more, hidden below, secrets. That can't get out." Rico's eyes darkened. "What kind of secrets?" The agent's breathing grew shallow. "The infestation. It's not natural. It's a weapon, a biological experiment, gone wrong." Rosa's face hardened. "And the government has been hiding it this whole time." The agent nodded weakly. "They'll kill you all before they let the truth come out." With a final gasp, the agent went limp, his body slumping to the ground. The group fell silent, the weight of the revelation sinking in. The infestation wasn't an accident. It had been engineered, and the government had been protecting that secret at all costs. "We need to go back to the bunker," Rico said, his voice steady. "There's more down there, something bigger." Vega glanced at Leon, her heart still racing from the battle, and from the way he had looked at her. "Are you with us?" Leon met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "I'm in." Rosa stepped forward. "We attack the bunker at dawn. We end this." As the group prepared to make their move, the cold night air seemed to close in around them. The city was quiet, but they knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. Whatever waited for them in that bunker, they were ready. But as Vega glanced back at Leon, a new fear gripped her, one that had nothing to do with the battle ahead. She had started to care for him, and in a world where survival was never guaranteed, that made everything so much more dangerous.